Short game wise, yes, I can. Long game wise, no. No, I have not.
He's talking the long game.
They played the long game.
They gotta play the long game.
They're experienced and they played the long game.
No, you're talking the long game.
They're experienced and they played the long game.
Very nice.
Long game is back.
All right, Case, long game is back. Good to see you. Last long game pod of the year. We just were going back on schedules, so sorry to our friends in Sweden, but we're going to shut this thing down next year. But we'll be back the following week. Case, good to see you. How's everything going?
Good. Happy holidays. How are you?
Happy holidays.
You watching golf this weekend?
I did. So this is great. I got to show you this. Did I buy an iPad just to watch golf and to make sure that I can always have it up on the screen? I did.
Love it.
Found myself watching highlights. Found myself, all right, I'm back in on Tiger. Fine.
Wow. Takes a big man to admit a mistake. Yeah, I missed
I'm back
a lot
in.
yesterday. Saw the recap at night. Watched more on Saturday, but I took my I took my daughter and my wife to the Celtics game yesterday, which was quite an experience in itself. But kind of my own little PNC championship, trying to get my daughter not to pull people's ponytails in the seats in front of us.
Wait. I saw a video on Instagram of there was a Bruins mascot and was your daughter slapping the mascot away? Well, I was very confused about what was happening.
Yeah, it was a tough angle. So it was Kids Day at the Celtics game. So they had every single mascot from every New England sports team. I'm talking like Connecticut Sun. They had a TD Bank mascot. They had everything there. And they just kind of came.
Do they have a hero world champ? Is there a motorcycle?
Tiger rode through in a motorcycle. Yep.
Worcester Ice Cats.
Yep, exactly. There was everyone, but she's a big Celtics fan. We're a big Celtics family. Kind of an anti-Bruins family. We can get into that one day. But the Bruins mascot, I think his name is Blades, came over and tried to give her the high five, and she completely iced him, just shook her head. My wife was next to her and gave the high five. So in the video, it looked like my daughter had like a 3-foot arm that gave him a high five, but no. But
Okay.
great time. Made it to the end of the third quarter, which was the over-under was halftime. So cashed those tickets. But
And
yeah.
what's usually the indicator that it's time to leave? Like, does she tell you I want to go now, or is like,
You know how earthquakes are like one big earthquake and then some like aftershocks? It's like the reverse. It's like aftershocks and you're like, oh, there's going to be an earthquake
Yeah.
pretty soon. So you can kind of tell. I mean, you have kids, you know, when
let's
they
quit while we're ahead?
Yep, she's out of nap, so
Yeah.
anything after 3:00 is a complete dice
But
roll.
that's cool though. Like I think you're in an ideal situation where you have the tickets, so like you could go anyway. There's no pressure to go for as long as you want to go. You live close to be able to, like, I was
Took the
thinking about,
train.
man, I want to go back. Like, I wish we were in Boston for a little bit because I'd love to take my kids to Fenway for like an inning, right? Get a hot dog, get an ice cream, be out.
Yep.
And how many kids are going to say that, they were in the garden when they were 3 or 4?
Well, she'll remember now that she completely iced the Bruins mascot, so that will be immortalized.
That's great. All right, so you didn't watch much of the PNC. I was
More
gonna
Saturday than Sunday.
All right. Do you wanna talk about like what even though we'll talk about why I'm for Tiger and Charlie.
Yeah, why
again.
don't we start there, because that's obviously the lightning rod of the whole week.
Do you want to defend? You want to take a minute to defend them because they got beat by a lot of people in this event.
They did. I mean, they did get beat, but I think the first reason they need some defending is just the amount of flack they're getting for, and really it's more the tour and their social channels, but just how much they featured Tiger and Charlie, which I have some thoughts on as well. But we should.
Why don't you tell me what's your thoughts on that? What's the matter with it?
I don't have a problem with any of it. I think people don't understand what this event is. I mean, this event is they're riding in carts. There's 20 groups. It's a family co-ed event. Everyone's having fun. They're throwing chicken fingers at each other, right?
Right.
The grandparents are following the groups in the carts behind them. So this is the point of this thing, it feels like, is to be like a social. We talked about this a little bit last week, how it's been a nice flow of not the most serious tournaments, but kind of nice ones to wrap up the year that are, smaller events, more fun, like the Hero or that mixed event, the Grant Thornton last week. But if you have a problem with like them showing Tiger's kid too much. Like I think I don't know. It's what the event is for.
Yeah.
It's for ratings, and it won't
Also,
be
he's the
around
greatest.
forever.
He's the greatest golfer of all time, and it's not like it's interesting that he has a kid who plays golf, but the fact that his kid is 14 and is already seems to be a fantastic golf talent. That's
Yeah.
why this is exciting. It's like people are losing their minds in college football because of Marvin Harrison Jr., right? This is like
Or
100 times that.
I mean, in the NBA, they've been talking about LeBron like scheming his way to get to a team so he can play with his son in a few years.
Right.
We've been talking about this for 4 years, feels like. So this is happening right now in front of us with Tiger and his son, and the kid's 14, and he's, you know, driving the ball 330 over the green on some holes. So
Yeah.
probably, I don't know if Charlie, to be honest, did himself too many favors this weekend. I'm sure you saw the drive where he's waving bye to it. It felt like this was. I've been watching this for probably. I think this is the third year I've really paid a lot of attention to this.
For 27 years.
Well, but because I mean, I would say I don't know how long it's had a TV contract, but I can tell you that since Tiger and Charlie have been playing the last 3 years, it's catapulted it. So I I think he's at a point where he's the last 2 years they'd have these viral clips that you could tell were very like natural. I think he's very aware of it now. So the wave thing, and he's in high school and he's on the golf team, so I'm sure he's trying to look cool for his
And
guys.
like I did see some comments about, like the wave and like, people being upset, but like, look, dude, this kid is 14 years old. Like, how many, this is one of 1,000 dumb little new, like, if there was a video of me like making a corner three in a high school, prep league basketball game, I would probably look at the crowd and like, did something absurd. Right. And so
Is
it's
that a
like,
Darius Miles?
no, Darius
head bump?
Miles, Quinn Richardson. Yeah,
Love that.
of course. So I think it's great. What's fun is it's fun watching the kids, but what's also fun, I like seeing, like, for me, it was watching someone like David Duval, who I've only seen on TV, like, still be absolutely so good at golf. I think that's just what blows me away about, like, how good these guys really are at golf. Like, I watched multiple times David Duval's son would putt first, right? David Duval, who knows how often he plays? I just see him on Golf Channel or whatever when you see him around.
Right.
If they had like a 15 footer and his son like burned the edge, it was like a 99.9% that David Duval putting second is going to make that putt. Right? That's what I think is so cool. Watching VJ Singh or like the Langers, just like to see how these guys are 60 plus years old in golf and still so good is so much fun.
Yeah, no. And congrats to you for picking your first championship pick of the entire.
Yeah. Do I get money for this? Like, what?
I'm
did we
going to give you
decide?
money for it. Do you know the payouts for this?
I'm looking at the leaderboard and it looks like I'm $1 million richer than I was last week. So,
well, I think I updated it for the last 2 weeks, but
the
the purse was like just $1 million, I think, total. But the Langers won 200,000. I wonder if that's each. No, it's probably total.
And
right?
it all goes to Patrick Cantlay's LLC.
Exactly. So not a lucrative week for Tiger at 47,000, but probably for Charlie. But who knows?
Hold on, I meant to look this up for my own. Bernhard Langer,
Yep,
has earned $34 million on the PGA Tour. I mean,
and what has Cantlay made in like
Patrick
of that time?
Cantlay career earnings? You think it's more over under?
Give me the number again.
34. Wow.
Yeah, because didn't he win the FedEx Cup? And
Patrick
that's like,
Cantlay has career earnings of $60.5 million as of May 2023.
and you know that guy's a smart investor, and he's tripled that, right?
Of
Your
course
boy?
he has. Yeah, he works at Goldman Sachs. He's obviously
Exactly.
going to triple that. That's nuts.
I wonder if that includes the FedEx Cup, because you win like what, 12 or like 15, 20 million
Yeah.
for that. I forget.
Even if we back that out, though, like the fact that Patrick Cantlay has won $40 million playing golf. Favorite for me this week, obviously the Langers. That's great. Thanks for getting me on the board. It was a little shaky down the end there. I did watch the end of it. Tiger and Charlie, some nice little moments. I like watching them. I can't even tell what they're saying, just like they're little, chirping around the green. And when you see one of them smile, and then whoever they're playing with, love that they brought Sam out, Tiger's daughter, to be on the bag. Just made me feel, as a family man, like how cool is that? Like, I and then you're watching Tiger do the interviews, and you feel like, man, he's become so good Oh, he's almost like Tom Brady. It's not like his interviews are good, but he knows he's going to give you the same generic 2-minute interview every time. I would like to know what he's actually like texting and talking about behind the scenes with people at this event.
Yeah, those are two people we may never hear what they really think.
No.
Because they've just been through the media training process so much. But I had a blast watching what I caught this week. When you watched it yesterday, did you watch it live? And was it live? Because I watched on Saturday when what I thought was watching live, and then I went to look at the scores, and it was over.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I completely just spoiled this for myself. But
I got some weird like stomach bug from the kids thing, and so I spent most of the day on the couch yesterday, and so like, and it was like a welcome, like, Dave, you need to sit on the couch, like, and so I was like, all right. So I watched a bunch of the end of the first round on Sunday, and then like it was like, oh, flip over to Peacock, and this is on right now, and so I watched a bunch of it live. Like the first hour was live on Peacock, and then, by the way, this is like a fun event. Like the weather was really shitty.
yeah, I know. They've had some bad weather, I think, recently too. I think
Yeah.
when they had all that flooding down like the Fort Myers area, was that last year, 2 years? That whole course was underwater. I think like 6 weeks before the tournament, they
insane.
somehow dried it out. So they always
And
have
then
something to deal with.
we didn't talk much about this, but I guess the Q School final round of Q School is supposed to be yesterday, but they moved it to today because of the weather.
And
in
we're
that same
recording on
area.
Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. Another favorite, the Strickers, Steve and Izzy Stricker. Like I love the fact it's usually like a guy and his son. You know, you and I each have daughters, obviously. Like the fact that it's Steve Stricker's daughter and she's sick at golf and she's going to Wisconsin or plays at Wisconsin was awesome
And
to watch that.
just won the high school state championship.
Oh,
right?
she did. That's what
Yeah.
that was. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And then
I got to say, I feel like we're burying the lead a little bit here. There was really a new star kind of made this weekend. Move over, Charlie. You want to talk about your new man crush?
Will McGee. How old is he? How do we know how old Will is? Young
He
Will
could be
McGee.
4. He could be 11. He could be 15. I have no clue. But that kid is a rock star.
The other thing is, as you know, as having once been a 14-year-old boy, as you were also, Case,
Yes.
it would be obnoxious as hell for everyone to talk about how Charlie, like how much how Lee looks. Well, yeah, dude, 3 years ago I was 11 or 12, and now I'm 14, and apparently something happens in your body over that period of time. So like, enough of that narrative. But Will McGee seems to be on the other side of that spectrum, and he's walking down 18. His mom is Annika Sorenstam. He's crying. They had so much fun together. I got a little bit emotional watching that, and he hit some good shots, and it just is so cool. And Annika seems just like I think watching this tournament, I forget how much of an absolute gangster Annika Sorenstam was
Oh, yeah.
back in her era. And I love the little clips when it's Tiger and Annika together.
Well, I think they practiced together one of the days, right? I saw them. I think they played that tournament years ago that was televised. They obviously have a close relationship, but that clip you sent me of the post game interview with him and his mom is just an all time clip. I think he's like at tears in his eyes. Again, I don't know how old he's. You think he's 7, 8?
Yeah. No, he's not 7.
Oh,
No,
I don't. My oldest is about to turn 4 in a few months, so I have no clue about anyone. Well, how old do you think he is? You look it up.
I'm looking up. He's 12. He's 12.
Okay, I'm gonna say he's short for his
He's
age.
7.
Okay, so he's 7 years old, and he's like got tears in his eyes. But I think he said this is the highlight of our year, right?
Yeah,
Just an amazing clip. Kind
of
of
course.
makes you think. And the other big clip that I loved coming out of this week, I sent it to you before, was they interviewed Patty Harrington.
Oh, I had this in my notes. I was going to mention this. A good segue.
Yeah, just an incredible. Every time I see an interview with Padraig Harrington, they ask him like a quick question, and then it's a 7.5-minute answer.
Well,
but it was unbelievable.
He's unbelievable. I don't know if you've seen his YouTube channel. He has basically there's a whole like industry of YouTube golf instructors. Patty Harrington has basically for free given away all of this knowledge on YouTube. He has everything from the grip to irons to driver to speed, like hour-long things on his YouTube channel. It's incredible. The clip for anybody that hasn't seen this, we should tweet this out from our account. But basically he talks about how much fun it is playing with his son, and they ask him about like, how do you about getting your kids into golf, and he talks about how it's so important to just like be around the course and to just have fun and to quit before golf becomes golf is such a stressful sport. There's like people behind you, people in front of you, you don't step there, put your mark here. There's a lot of shit going on. He's like, you got to take the kids to the course, just have fun being around it. And actually Leah and I, my wife, we were talking about how much this is related to skiing. Like we want to get our kids into skiing. It's like you just gotta get to the mountain, have hot chocolate and French fries, like put your boots on and call it a day. And we live really close to a golf course, and so I've been fortunate enough to do this with my son. But I would go over and chip and putt and take him, and we'd get a sandwich and a Gatorade, and he just would be so happy to go over there and get chips and a snack. It was cool to see this video from Patty talking about like, he's a hardcore competitive guy, to not put the pressure on his kids to go play and to approach this the right way. It seems like counter to what you see with a lot of a lot of parents who are really top athletes, and how they would push their kids to get into the game.
Yeah, I love that he said that thing about not putting the pressure on the kids. Let the game come to them. Let them fall in love with the game, because it can't be a chore, right? It's got to be something they look forward to. But he was also talking about just which I thought was interesting, especially for someone who's who's a professional player and could unlock, give a kid a million pointers. He was saying like don't even try to change the swing or everything. Just the kids are smart at this age; they'll figure it out. But it just struck me, because if your dad is like a 3-4 time major winner, you'd think it'd be hard for them not to be like, hey, you gotta do this, that. But shout out
They
to
also
him.
finished, for what it's worth, they finished in last, and so
Tied for last with another one of your picks, I think, the Furyks.
the Furyks. I don't even know.
So you
why I
picked the first
them.
place and the two teams that tied for last, which is pretty
It's
impressive.
great. It's great. I'm here. I'm geared up for the century, baby.
There you
I
go.
often listen to PGA Tour radio in the car, as I have Sirius in the car, and they always keep playing this right now they're promoting the Century Tournament of Champions, and it's always this one, every commercial, they play the same shit over and over. It's Colin Morikawa saying like, if you're here in Kapalua, a lot of things are going right in your game. And so I'll be ready. I'll be ready for Kapalua.
Yeah.
I'll be here. I'll be ready. 2 weeks.
You mean you listen to the PGA Tour radio when you're alone in your car? I don't think you
Uh,
get to win the dial over when you're driving with your family, do you?
So I have one time, 2 summers ago, we drove from Vermont
Do you know the date?
To the Cape. It was during the British. It was either the British or it was the British.
Dave, that's called the Open.
The Open, sorry, the British people. It was during the Open, and we often trade off driving, and our rule is that whoever drives gets to choose their podcast or whatever of choice. And so we listened to 3.5 hours of PGA Tour radio.
And the kids are fine listening to this?
The kids are watching their iPads.
Yeah.
Like
I haven't got there yet.
we could honestly fly to Japan, and my daughter would be like, we'd be on the plane for 20 hours and she'd have no idea.
Yeah,
So,
gotcha.
all right. So that's it. We're off. We're off for this. We're off and we're back. I'm excited. I'm excited to do this for the real season.
Yeah. We've, like we said, we started like 6 weeks ago, and we've had really only one, I think, actual full field tournament.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, these are the fun tournaments they should have towards the end of the year. Like the 4 majors, you get the FedEx Cup, you get the Ryder Cup this year, and then usually there's a whole lot of nothing. And these are cool things that get more people drawn into the game. I think I was thinking, if Liv did a family event, what would it look like? Be interesting. I don't know if the Patrick Reed would be involved, but if you could play with
There
your
would
in-laws,
be
maybe.
way more smoke and fireworks and like Miami club party vibes.
In
I
a
think,
concert with Kid Rock or something like that.
a concert with Kid Rock. All right, let's flip over. We're not going to do a full season preview, but Casey had a great idea of, we're each going to pick 3 people that we think have a shot at winning their first major next year. And you came up with this great question, so I'm going to let you do the honors here.
Yeah, you want to do a snake draft too, or
Let's
just
do
go
a
back and
snake
forth?
draft.
I'm gonna assume we're gonna have a lot of the same people here. So let's pick
Well,
3 guys we think could win their first major in 2024.
Do you know anything about this podcast yet? You're going to assume that we have I'm picking like Jim Furyk for this. You know that, right? No, I guess he's won a major.
Has he?
Jim Furyk? Has Jim Furyk won a major? Jim Furyk major
I don't know, man.
wins. Did he win a major? Yeah, he won the 2003 U.S. Open.
Oh, that's
Wow.
right. That's the one.
How do you you think this guy can shoot 50? This guy shot 58 twice. Of course, he's won a major.
Yeah, interesting. So I'll just get this one off the bat because I think we're both thinking him. It's got to be Victor's year, right?
Yeah, fine. We do have one overlap. Yeah. Out of all the people, so this is weird. So I went down this hole. You and I Googled some same articles of like people who haven't won a major. And there's these weird like Bet MGM articles that have like Ian Poulter and Westwood on there. I just went over to the OWGR world ranking page and went down there and tried to figure out who of those guys doesn't have a major yet. Victor stands out. I
And he's
think he
playing
would
so well.
he would have stood out anyway, but he's obviously playing well. And I think last year showed us that he can hang in those types of tournaments. Lovely guy, very strange taste in music. I also saw him post a picture on Instagram of like eating just a straight up like pig's head with the eyeball taken out.
Yeah, he's a bird. We said this before.
But maybe if you smoke enough weed, then that's like a delicious meal. So he has no idea, as we
And
found
it's his
out.
off season, so we'll let him live.
All right, so we like Vic. We like Vic, Big Dick Vic. We like him for the. Do you have a particular major in mind that you see him winning?
You know, it's funny. I do for a lot of these guys on my list, but I feel like he can win anywhere, especially like in Augusta. And I think he was in the running last year, at least at a good round, first round. But he seems to have the all around game. His issue for years was the short game, which he fixed last year and led to him having such a great year. So I'd say Augusta. Where's the U.S. Open this year? We're going to.
Bethpage?
Is it? The Ryder Cup's going there next, isn't it?
U.S. Open 2024 golf, not tennis. You morons. It's at Pinehurst. Oh, that's right.
that's right.
And,
I knew that.
And
I
you're
knew that.
going to Pinehurst this year, aren't you?
I was at Pinehurst like months ago, and they were like, I bought all this shit that says U.S. Open 2024 that I'd like. It'd be funny if I was wearing it and asked where it was next year. It's hard for me to say, like, is he gonna attack? I mean, the last time they played at Pinehurst, I forget who won. Was it the German guy?
The German guy?
Yeah, you remember him? He's a Ryder Cup guy.
Schwartzel?
No, he's South African, different continent. Germany.
Martin Keimer?
Yes, I think Keimer won. I think he beat maybe, I want to say Ricky maybe or someone, but you've never played number 2. It's an unbelievable classic course. You'll love it. It actually seems like it belongs in the Northeast, except for some of the sand stuff. But I think he can win anywhere. So
all right,
I've got him. I mean, I could see him winning twice next year. He's if he has the same kind of season he had this year, especially coming off of the last month or two he had. All right, so who do you have? I got Victor.
You got Victor.
I think we both got Victor.
We both have Victor. I put Max Homa number 2 on my list.
Definitely on my list.
It's hard because he has not played great at or well actually in almost any of the majors. I think he maybe has one good major finish, but he just seems like a guy who is truly a top 10 player. Like you said, pick a person that hasn't won a major yet. He's a top 8 player in the world. He seems to have the game that can hold up. He's a very likable guy. I'd love to see Max get in the mix at a major this year.
Yeah, and going back to your question about what course or what event that might be, I think I've heard him say many times before that Augusta fits his style, which is kind of a ballsy thing to say about a place like that, especially when people are going to bring it up over and over again. But yeah, I think I definitely had him on my list. I also had Tommy Fleetwood on my list. I don't know if you did, but I have in parentheses would have to be a come from behind win on Sunday because he doesn't seem to play well ever with the lead.
No, that's fair.
But he's played incredible at Augusta before. He was right in the mix at the Open this year. So he'd be my number 2 pick.
By the way, the majors this year, the Masters, it's at Augusta this year. Then
again, that's like 3 years in a row.
It's crazy. Then there's the PGA at Valhalla, which is in Louisville, Kentucky. We have the U.S. Open in June at Pinehurst, number 2. I'm going to give you a full review. I'm going there in March. I can't wait. I've never played a real golf course in my life, and so this will be fun. I can't wait to. I've played BGC. That's true. I can't wait to like hit a drive and be like, oh, I can't wait to tell everyone like how far I hit it on a particular hole, like an average person would on.
You
TV.
never played like the TPC Boston?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I've only played once either, but that's like a stadium course. That's
stadium course. Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm excited for Pinehurst. And then the the Open. The Open is at Royal Troon, which I've never been there.
No. Probably won't be for a while.
All right, so you got Victor, you got Max, you got Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy's like a guy where like, yeah, I'd love to see that happen. It's just is like it was so hard to pick someone on this list who like the exercise is pick somebody who hasn't won a major. It's so hard to not let all the history creep in and be like, there's no way. Like you and I talked about, you want to know who's not on either of our lists, who's never going to win a major? The X-Man, Xander.
I
Like
know.
this guy's consistently a top 10 player in the world, and I just think he has no chance to win a major.
No, I think I've seen him kind of fumble it away enough times down the stretch that I feel like I've seen enough there out of him. I think he's the type of guy that's going to have like multiple FedEx Cup championships by the end of his career.
Oh, for sure.
I think he, like you're saying, like if you're in this stretch where he's finishing top 5 like 3-4 weeks in a row, that's huge for that kind of format.
Yeah.
Not necessarily having to win, or maybe when it goes down to they cut it down to the smaller field. But I'm with you. I think his gold medal is about as far as his accolades are going to take him with majors or worldly events like that. But I'm with you on him.
All right.
I think if
Are
it
you ready
hasn't
for
happened yet,
my
Go
third pick here?
can I just say it?
You can say it, sure.
Yeah, it's Patrick Cantlay, correct?
No.
Really?
It's not Project Pat. By the way, can these two do anything? Number 5 in the world, number 6 in the world, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele. Like
One of the stranger pairings too of just friends. I would like it. Just they don't seem like they would see eye to eye on everything, but they do. And yeah, I guess.
okay, I wanted to go a little bit off the
Hold on one
map
second.
here.
I
Go
got
ahead.
to stop you for a second.
Sure.
You started this podcast, not this episode, but this podcast in general, out the gates hot with some Patrick Cantlay support. You started this episode with, I think I'm back on Team Tiger. Is there trouble in paradise here? What's going on with you and Patty?
It's just a tough look. I am a very my whole personality is summed up in recency bias, and so like John Rahm, haven't seen him play golf in 6 months, don't know. So perfect example. Patrick Cantlay, haven't seen him play golf in a long time. If we get to 2 weeks from now, when Pat is 12 under through 24 holes at the Century, like I'll be back. There's just been a weird time in the season. I got to get back in the season.
So going off of recency bias, you've got Will McGee maybe in the running for a major?
No, Jason Langer. Obviously. All right, we need to do something a little bit more fun to get out of
Hold on. You didn't give me I interrupted you. You said you're going to shock me with a pick.
My third pick to win a major this year that has not won a major.
Yeah.
This guy is an absolute flusher, and he goes by the name of Minwoo Lee.
Oh, wow. I love that. He's been playing some great golf. He's electric too. Some of the
He's
videos they have of
electric.
him, like playing in the Australian tour, just crazy.
Electric. I just wanted to go down this list, and there's a lot. Look, I love Cam Young. I love Cam Young. I want Cam Young to be a top 10 player in the world. I wanted to say him on this list, but there's something off like about that. Anyway, we could do a whole Cam Young pod at some point.
Yeah. A few guys on my list. I thought
Yeah.
Ricky, maybe it's time for Ricky. Tony Finau, I kind of put him in the Xander class where if you haven't done it yet, why are you going to do it now? But I can also see those guys being like, in like 10 years winning one at the very back end. It's like, oh, he finally got one. Kind of like the Phil thing was for a while before he got his Masters. But yeah,
dude,
or maybe Tom Kim.
This might be boring for people because the Phil book came out 2 years ago, but I've been telling you every week that I'm reading the Phil biography. I just read a little bit before I fall asleep every night. It's so damn good. You got to read it. There's so many good stories in there, like of him sneaking off, like during competitive PGA Tour rounds, he's going off into the woods and he played one time with an earpiece in and a radio. He played a PGA Tour event with an earpiece and a radio in his pocket so he could listen to the 2001 Ravens AFC Championship game because he put 10 grand on them at 28-1 to win that year. Is that insane?
I'm not a fan of Phil, but I feel that. I respect that.
It's that, and then there's a story at the champion the night that he won the Masters. There's like a dinner. It's different than the Champions Dinner the year later. But he told Hootie Johnson, he told Hootie Johnson, the guy who, the head of Augusta at the time or whatever. He told him to go down into the wine cellar, and I guess they have the most exclusive wine cellar ever, and bring up the most expensive bottle of wine. And then he brought up this $15,000 bottle of wine. and he opens it and he's passing around and drinking it. And Hootie Johnson said, like, to whisper to the guy, he's like, make sure this goes on Phil's tab. There's just an infinite amount of stories
Yeah.
out there about this
I'll
guy.
have to check it out.
Yeah, you have to check it out. I also, guys that I want to see win, like, while we're on this topic, guys that I would like to also see get in the mix at a major. I love Sahith Theegala. I'd love to see
He's on my
him.
list.
Is he on your list? I love that.
He was on my list. He's one of my favorite young players, and I'm with you. The reason I didn't include him in the top of that list is I feel like a lot of guys, he can catch fire. Like I think Sunday at the Masters last year, he shot like a 66 or something. Like he can catch fire. It just seems like it's an experience thing for him. He's throttling back and forth down the stretch. He had a great, maybe my favorite full swing episode in the Netflix series. If you watch that, just like a real true guy had a
Yes.
breakdown, crying with his family after
Yeah.
he kind of choked away
Is that,
the waste
is that show
management.
back? Are we going to have that show back this year?
Yeah, the season 1 came out in February, mid-February this year, so I would assume same timeline. But
That'd be nice. That'd be some good pod content. We could binge that and talk about it.
yeah, I'd love. I mean, it was so great last year with all the live stuff. That's just got to even get better this year. So, and they were at the Ryder Cup too, and they weren't let in the. Can't let your boy wouldn't let him in the locker room, but there should be some good stuff with Hadgate and all that stuff. So that would be fun.
You made me think of this because you talked about pressure, but you and I sent that. There's a clip, just such a good clip from this event this week, where it's Annika and Will McGee and Tiger and Charlie and little Will McGee. He says he sees Tiger and he's telling him how he was so nervous on the first tee, and Tiger's like, mid chicken finger, and he's like, "You should be, means you care." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah.
How great is that?"
Yeah.
So Sahith, if you're nervous on Sunday at the Masters, it's good. It means that you care.
Tiger's probably had to say that a million times in his life because everyone that plays anywhere within his range is just shaking probably on every tee box. Imagine teeing off like just in like you somehow won a raffle and you get to play with Tiger. Your hands would be doing what on the first tee?
Right. Or being,
Hummingbird.
or being a 15-year-old and you get paired with Charlie Woods in a high school tournament and Tiger Woods is his fucking caddy.
or 7 like Will McGee, right?
Yeah, or 7. All right. Do you want to do best favorite moments of the year?
Yeah, I wanted to just go back. What a crazy year with a lot of kind of shitty stuff too mixed in. But do you have a favorite PGA Tour memory this year?
I do. I also have some not memories.
Plenty of those, yeah.
Plenty. Like what? Two of my.
You want to run through? We want to run through some of those ones first. What are your least favorite PGA Tour members?
My least favorite. I have a couple. Case. Number one, my least favorite moment was Brian Harman winning the Open.
On my list, my notes right here. Least favorite moment was probably Brian Harman winning the British Open. Unreal, Dave.
I love you.
Shout out Brian Harman. Love to have you on the pod.
Here's why. I don't often get the opportunity to watch a lot of golf, right? When the majors are on, I'm like, you know what? I don't care if it's nice out. I'm putting the TV on. Like my kids are watching. I don't care if they're glued to the screen. Like I like to have the majors. Like we talked about in this podcast, like growing up and golf is on. I love to have the majors on. The Open, fantastic timing because it's in the morning. It doesn't chew up my whole day.
The best.
I just kept waiting for him. I didn't want to. It's raining. The weather's shitty. I needed something to happen that day, and nothing fucking happened. And it was just a waste. I wasted 4 hours watching that golf.
100%. And Rory was kind of right there too, and everyone was kind of.
Jason Day was in the mix. So that was number one, and then like a close second. And in that same bucket for me was Wyndham Clark winning the U.S. Open.
Is my number 2 as well. I swear to God, I had that and / all the Barranca Marine Layer June gloom talk that dominated that weekend. And
like the fact that like Ricky couldn't make something, like when Ricky being in the mix that time, or even Xander, like just give me something.
The Ricky storyline there was
yeah.
Oh, that was. I mean, it was great golf, especially that Saturday coming down the stretch. That shot that Wyndham hit the club twirl on 18.
I watched it. It was. It's just obnoxious that club twirl was.
I know, but it was textbook. You can't get any better than that, right? Like unless you're Tiger, you're probably going to get some shit for doing that, right? But that's so funny. Imagine being either Brian Harman or Wyndham Clark listening to this somehow and being like, "This is the worst year for golf of like division and like fracturing the sport." And your 2 worst moments were the greatest 2 moments of our lives. Our first majors. Sorry, guys. Love to have you on the pod. But
yeah, anytime when he wants to come on the pod.
And gambling certainly has nothing to do with my view on this. I didn't lose money on Rory and Ricky in those tournaments. That's not why I'm bitter at all.
Roy will be on the pod.
All right. So what's your favorite moment? Your positive moment from the year?
Okay, number one was sweaty Lucas Glover going back to sweaty
Unreal.
Lucas Glover in Memphis, going back to back. That was great, unexpected. My actual favorite moment of the year, early in the year, was the Masters, and it could always be the Masters, but it was a great Masters, and the reason why was because golf had been divided, right? And we didn't know what we were going to get. To have Brooks in contention at the first major of the year, the first major post all the lives shakeup, post watching Full Swing and seeing all that stuff, that was sick. Like Friday, Saturday to see him in there, and then he goes on and he wins the PGA like the following month. There was like, it wasn't a particular shot, but just that time of like, it's April. There's a great Masters on. There's it's Rahm and Brooks. It's big names. You know, the weather's turning up here. That was the time of year for me. That was my
You're right.
favorite moment.
Usually my favorite Masters are the ones that Tiger wins. Sorry, I get that out of the way. My favorite Masters, are the ones where there's, 7 or 8 guys that are in the mix. That's the best. And big names and maybe a few kind of no names in there. So you got a lot of drama. This was more of a two-man race, right? Going down the stretch, which was cool in its own way because it was two of the best players in the world just going mano a mano. And then Phil kind of snuck in the back door with like a 63 or something crazy to go low. But it was really just those two guys, and they're playing together. So it's fun to, you don't usually when two guys are in contention, it just happens to be there in different groups. I don't remember many times where it's the same guy coming down in the same stretch. I'm sure it's happened a lot, but there was just it was one of those Masters where you really didn't need to tune in until you knew what that tee time was, and then it was just you just watched that the whole rest of the day.
I remember, I'm looking at the leaderboard now. There was a lot going on. There was a moment where Spieth was in the mix.
I remember that, but these were like also low because they both. I think Rahm and Koepka kind of sputtered a little bit to the middle of those rounds, and a lot of guys went low early because it was wet and stuff, and it made things interesting. But really, by the time they hit the middle of the back nine, it was really just two guys, right?
Yeah, P. Reed was in there for a minute. What's your best moment of the year, Case?
I'll start with my runner-up, and I think it was Tom Kim at the PGA Championship going like waist deep in mud by accident. They're like, "Don't walk over there," and you've ever seen that clip? He went like literally quicksand down to it, and then he played the rest of the round in like Caprice, by the way, which is hilarious.
If you know this, tell me. But if you don't know, I happen to. I was literally going to mention this to you earlier. Do you know what Tom Kim's official golf world ranking is? Do you know where what number he is in the world at this moment? If you had to guess,
I'm going to say 13.
It's very good. He's 11. Surprisingly high for me for a guy that really hasn't done that much.
Well, keep in mind he won 2 events in the last calendar year almost.
That's right.
He won the same event twice, and he just most recently won. So that probably helped
young
him out
Tom
a lot
Kim.
too.
All right, that's a good memory. I like
and
that.
I think he was one of these guys that played a lot of the fall events, or at least the early ones. So maybe he made up some ground on some of the Cantlays of the world who were on vacation on their super yacht somewhere.
Yeah.
But my number one moment of the year, I think it's hard to top this, was just really the sequence of the Hatgate thing at the Ryder Cup to the thing on the 18th hole, and really Rory trying to kill Bones. That footage that came up, like, so what a year for Rory, and that really put the cherry on top of. He was all over the map, but seeing that kind of fire out of him, like, that's what I want out of the Ryder Cup. And it was a boring one, and that made Sunday like interesting. And it would have been. I mean, it was a boat race in the end, but that just added so much drama and stuff. And you never see that kind of stuff in the golf world. So that was my favorite moment.
Especially coming out of the year where like Rory was the spokesperson for the tour, basically,
right.
And then you see him.
Yeah.
I also had some runner-ups for me was obviously Taylor Gooch going back to back at Live Adelaide and Live Singapore.
Who can forget?
Those are big. And Bryson come on the pod. Bryson winning Live in Chicago. That was a big deal for me.
Yeah. Well, you and you alone, and Bryson.
And Bryson.
If a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, does it make a sound?
Love that guy. All right, let's flip over. Let's talk about our games for a little bit. Do you have any? Do you have golf goals for the year?
Golf goals,
like for you actually hitting the ball, playing golf. Do you have any?
So playing golf.
It's okay. It's okay if you don't.
I'd love to have people listen to this pod more, but I guess we're talking on the course stuff. Stuff I was gonna say stuff we can control, but that's a stretch too. Honestly, I don't have I don't have a handicap goal. I don't have a like here's how many times I want to play. My goal this year is like for the first time ever, I want to get on the first tee and have any idea of where the ball's gonna go. Because like really, when I start a season, it's kind of like who's showing up this year? Am I playing like a draw? Am I playing a fade? Like it's crazy how much my swing seems to change. And if I know what I'm like, how I'm swinging it, and I can then defend against it. But if I'm just going left and right every other hole, then it takes me a while to figure it out. But I'm trying to put in more time to get more comfortable of like, let's get to like 3 things I need to think about and focus on, and then go from there. Because I don't have a ton of time to put in the practice. I don't have the facility you have right down the street, although I should probably look into something like that. But I want to just have a better feel of what the hell I'm doing when I hit the ball, especially early in the season, and build on that. How about you?
And where do you think that will come from? Is that from like getting a lesson, or is it just more like I kind of just want to commit to like a shot shape? Like, how do you think that's going to come to life?
It's a good question. I am gonna take a lesson coming up here in a few weeks when we go down to Florida for the holidays, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, we talked a lot with Janko last week about just styles of teaching and how I've always kind of struggled with taking a lesson and then taking that to the first tee a day later or a week later or a month later, and just the continuity there. So I think that's my first goal is to take this lesson, see what he says, and I'm trying to be upfront and be like, I'm just looking for a few small fixes here. I'm not trying to be a scratch right now. I'm just trying to get down to maybe a low, a mid single digit. But that's not the goal. The goal is just to figure out where the hell the ball is going off the tee. If I can get the ball off the tee, I'm fine. I can figure the rest out. But if I'm
do you mean
if I'm losing 2 or 3 balls off the tee, I hate
specifically with the driver is what you're trying to what you need to hone in on.
100%. 100%. I feel like everything falls in line after that. If I'm swinging the driver well, like I'm swinging everything else well. But
yeah,
if I'm just giving strokes away off left and right off the tee, it's going to be a long day, and it's not going to be a same ball all day round.
I like that.
Which is most
I
important.
also there's something about whether it's your technical swing or whatever, but I think there's just a lot of mental swag. It's like when you play basketball and you get out there, and if you make that first jumper or whatever that you take for the day, it's like every day. But if that one hits the side of the backboard, and you're like, oh boy,
yeah, it's true. I mean, golf is all like really what it comes down to is just repeating the same motions and how well you can accurately clone the perfect swing that you're trying to replicate. Yeah. Tempo, it's a million different things in unison. So that's what I'm trying to work on. If I can just get my tempo down and have an idea where the ball is going to go, I'll be happy.
All right, I got.
What are your goals?
I got 2 specific ones. One of them is I want to get my handicap down to a 0, which I think is possible.
And you're what right now?
1.4. And I think there's lots of ways. There's lots of things in there that I think I can do that'll make that possible, trending in the right direction. And then
what are those things?
I think number 1 is just more just overall consistency. I think the scratch golfers that I see, I still have the tendency to make maybe 1 or 2 mistakes around in the form of like a double, like I could be playing great and then on the 13th tee, just like, hammer 1 OB or something. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if you're saying you have an issue with like 1 double around, like do your doubles come as a result of the same issue, or are they just different? Like,
no, they're often different. I think up until this year, they were the result of like having a 2-way miss. And so that is really hard to battle because
story of my life.
I usually would hit like, my miss would be like a slice, like a spinny cut. But then all of a sudden you start to play that, and then there's a hazard on the left and you hit that just like dead left missile, like, or hits a tree branch, 10 yards in front of you. And you're like, what the fuck? And then why did that go left? So I've eliminated 2-way miss, which has made that a lot. I've gone from a 6 to a 1. I've gone from a 6 to a 1.5 in the last 2 years. And so I've shrunk down a lot of like the big mistakes, but now it's just a consistency. Like the guys that I play with that are, true scratch golfers, they almost never make that stupid double. It's always a bogey. And so I think eliminating that is the key.
this might be hard to answer in short form, but how do you eliminate a two-way miss? Like, are you choosing which one you're eliminating? Is this something you're working on with your coach, Janko? How
Yeah,
do you?
well, in this case, it was my swing direction was left, and a lot of times it was a swing direction that was left, and the club face is open, and that's going to send the ball right.
You're slicing it, yeah.
But your body is smart, like subconsciously, and so you can just all of a sudden you might do things which is like, oh, there's like actually a little bit of water. There's some trouble, right? And so your body is just going to feel yourself swinging the club left. And all of a sudden you're going to subconsciously shut the club face down. And on a hole where like it's actually okay to hit it a little bit, to the other side, you shut the club face down and it just goes dead left. And so this is why, like, I think there's so much of golf that is mental, but I think that a lot of people, until you get a lot of instruction and coaching, you underrate how much of it is technical and the fundamentals and the right and that matters a lot. And there's also a big difference between like having those reps indoors or on the range and like
Yeah.
going out and playing. And so like
Mhm.
one of the things that we talked about with Janko last week is like being more intentional about practicing. And so like going out to a hole and hitting specific shots on a hole, as opposed to, yeah, like you want to like have a clue what you're doing with driver a little bit more. It's easy to go to the range and hit 50 drivers and like just be fucking sweating and be like, I figured it out. But what you need is to go to a hole where like there's different obstacles and stuff. And
Yeah.
so being more intentional about practicing and stuff
Mhm.
makes a big difference.
So
So
how do you get from
eliminating,
a 1 point whatever to a zero? Do you have like a do you have it figured out, like, I need to post these kind of scores more often? Is it big, or is this like a swing or technical thing
no,
you're
I
trying to
think it's
change?
it's just scoring. It's scoring now. And so I've made a lot of progress with my swing, like technically. And now it's like, it's this constant dance of like, there's also somebody, some guy that I've played with before who has never gotten a lesson in his life, but he's naturally a scratch and he has a completely fucked up grip and he plays, he holds the club all wrong. And if he ever got a lesson, Django would tell him to start over, but that guy knows how to play golf. And so now I have to like, I've spent a lot of work like getting my swing in a better spot. Now I have to also get better at just like at scoring, and scoring is a whole different element. Like you're not going to hit it perfectly every time, but what are you doing to score here? And like, hey, you really need to get this up and down. And there's a lot between short game and eliminating three putts and getting better at chipping. I think it's there. I think now I just need the time to do it, and I think it'll happen this year.
And you haven't really plateaued where you are, right? You've just been on a trajectory of keep getting lower and lower. So do you, even just probably, another year of playing, if you didn't even change a thing, you'd
Yeah,
probably get
yeah,
closer and closer, right?
that's kind of what I think. And I think at the level that I'm going to continue to play and practice, I would hope that, and then it just becomes like, is my mind going to get into the way? I think another goal that I have is I've been playing a bunch of last 2 years. I've been starting to play a lot more competitive golf here, similar to your thing. I need to get off to better starts. Like you get nervous on the first tee and I make a bogey right out of the gate, make a double on number two. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm in this hole again. This happened to me last year. I accomplished my big goal, which was qualifying for the Vermont Am up here. And I was playing great. First hole, I made like a nervous bogey. Second hole, I hit a good tee shot and I just smash one left OB. And I'm literally standing there in the middle of the fairway having a re-tee. And I'm like, here we go again. You would have been happy if you were 3 over after 18 holes. You're 3 over after 1.5.
Dave,
Like,
I think I don't want to switch jump segments, but it just hit me. I think I have a new make the case
okay,
based on what we're just talking
I'm
about.
here for this.
So I have always said this too, kind of what you're saying, like getting off to better starts. Um, if I always say if a course was like 21 holes and the first 3 holes just didn't count, like you tell me go hit balls, it doesn't
Dude.
it doesn't help me, especially when I'm warming up at a range that has like um like some courses have great grass tees. You can warm from some. You have to go to a driving range or somewhere, and you get the rubber tees or whatever
Yeah.
you use. Sometimes simulators use those. I don't find it to actually, it helps the swing the same way of just swinging like a weighted club would help me kind of get loose. I don't really have ever taken anything from like how I swung it on the warm up to how I swung it on the first tee, because it's the pressure, the mental thing. So getting off to a start is huge. courses don't have the ability to add 3 holes, so you can have 3 warm-up holes before you go. Why don't, instead of a driving range, we take that same land and we make like 2 holes or 3
A mini
holes?
course. That'd be
It's
sweet.
but it's like a full. It's not like a pitch and putt. It's a full length, like 1 or 2 holes, and it's like, hey, you need reps playing on an actual course, real stakes.
Yeah.
And how fun would that be? It's just like I got to
That
go
would be
warm up
sick.
at the.
That's actually like it seems like a silly idea, but that would actually be the best way to warm up. I was gonna say to you one thing that I did more recently that has helped is I used to just go to the range and warm up and just like hit driver, 7-iron and then go.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that when I go to the range, like before a competitive round, if I try to play like the first 4 to 6 holes in my head and I hit driver, wedge, 3-wood, 7-iron, wedge, 4-iron, 8-iron. Like if I hit a bunch of random clubs, I'm in a much better spot to go out in there and play. That would make a huge difference. If you played 3 holes before your round started.
Now here's
And
the
then-
we got
'cause
to
it
work
could-
out the financials on this. I don't know how it works. The driving range, you can have like 300
Yeah.
people doing it at the same
Yeah.
time, and here you'd have like one, unless you did shotgun
I love
starts
this.
and
I,
different
I
holes.
have an example. Last year when I played in that AM, the first day we ended up like the first round, there was a thunderstorm at the end of the round. And so the next day I had to finish 4 holes before starting the next 18. I played so good that
Yeah.
second day. It wasn't good enough to make the cut, but it was because I got to play 4 holes. By the time I got to the first tee, I wasn't even nervous because you're
Yeah.
already sweating, you're already going. So you're onto something there.
Yeah.
Golf, the 3 warm-up holes.
Just a 3, a 4, and a 5. You get everything. Now I don't know how it's going to work financially, but I think we get something there maybe.
All right, so those are goals for rough look at goals for the year. We'll have more up.
We'll check in next year
updates.
and see how we did on those.
Yeah,
You'll say,
well,
Casey, you have any clue
I
where the
can't
ball's
wait.
going?
I can't wait for our first podcast after your lesson. By the way, I hope you take notes, or at least remember what we talked
Maybe
about.
we'll secretly record it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, you want to do inner OB? Do you want to start this, or do you have one? You want me to go first?
You go first.
All right. I have a quick one, and then I have a one after this. So inner OB, is it inner OB to wear a company/brand hat as your go-to golf hat, like Titleist hat, Callaway hat, TaylorMade hat, inner OB?
I think it's in. I mean, I've heard the argument before of like it's weird that people just rep like companies that manufacture equipment that you purchase. It's not like someone's sending. I mean, if you're getting sent clubs by Titleist and you want to wear a hat, like that's cool too. But I feel like people love golf and they really love like their clubs or like their brand. Like I'm a big Titleist guy. I just love Titleist stuff like my whole life. I just love the brand. Not even like I do play Titleist clubs, but I don't. It's like I just love the brand, and we're kind of both nerds in that world. But I think it's fine. I don't think it's that weird. I mean, I don't have a ton of that stuff, so hard to criticize. But why
No,
not?
I was listening to
Why
a
not?
rival.
Like-
I was listening to a rival golf podcast, and one of the hosts was just on a rant about how he said that you're just such a dork, such a loser if you wear like a Titleist hat.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. It's the sport has been so like those things have been so ingrained in this sport that I haven't ever thought twice about it. Like I'm trying to think of a different sport if someone was wearing like
A Nike
Like-
hat.
that you play, but you're like whenever you play like pickleball, you get I don't know what the pickleball brands are, but it's so funny that's you just watch that. I think a lot of it has to do is like guys in sports have uniforms, right? And then you're like, when you're little, like I want that uniform. It's like you watch guys playing golf, you're not like looking for Tom Watson's polo, but like
Speak
that
for
hat or
yourself.
like maybe a lot of this has to do with the Nike thing with Tiger too. I mean, the Nike swoosh, like that was such a huge iconic thing for him back in the day, and then everyone just started branding.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you. Where you can rock the Titleist hat.
Yeah, you're in on that too.
Yes, I am in on that. That's
But
why
I just
brought it
rock
up.
a long game pod hat now.
Long game pod hat. I got 6 of them. All right, next one for you. Inner OB. This is more like which one would you rather? Would you rather get up in the morning, run 4 miles, lift, hit balls for 2 and 3 hours, go play, come back, work on your short game, go run 4 miles again, then go play tennis or basketball? Or would you rather hit balls for 20 minutes, putt a little bit, smoke 4 or 5 cigarettes, drink three Diet Cokes, and head to the first tee, sometimes not hit balls at all? Which would be your preferred day, Case?
Honestly, I'm not a cigarette guy, but there's nothing I hate worse than running. So, obviously we're talking about the Tiger and
So-
and daily
So
dichotomies
would you rather
that
have
came
to
out.
suck down 3 cigarettes than go run 4 miles?
Uh, honestly, if I could do what John Daly did with that much skill without apparently without that much preparation or really commitment to the game, I mean, who wouldn't take that? But if I could, you're asking me, would I rather or I hate running. I hate running. So honestly, you could have said anything in option 2 there, and I would have gone for it. But I don't like the John Daly thing. I don't. I think it's also not completely true. I think he probably put in a lot more work
Yeah.
than he leads on
I
because
agree.
it's just it's a persona. He kind of leads into it.
The first one, which is what Tiger said, that's what he used to do. I believe him, but I also am like, wait a second. So he would run 4 miles and then lift and then go and hit balls and go play. And I hope is he taking a cart? Is he walking? Like he's going to running 8 miles in a day and lifting. And like this guy literally breaks something every other year. And we're wondering why this happened.
Well, he said that's what he used to do, right?
Used to do.
I
Yeah.
don't think he's. I think there's more Call of Duty involved in there now than there used
Now
to be.
he
But,
just does chess.
right, but like my favorite part about that Tiger quote too is he at the end of that. What's the end of it? It's
Go play
basketball.
tennis or basketball, depending on who's around.
Depending on who's around or if anybody wants to play. It wasn't on like Tiger's down. He'll finish that crazy day with that, but he's like, if anybody's around, like if there's no one around, I can't do it.
Like he didn't want to say
if
like
you can find someone.
he didn't say go run 4 miles and like hang out and go to bed. He's like, if someone wants more activity and they hit me up, I'm down for more activity.
And I there was a great Lee Trevino interview, I think during the practice round this week, where they asked him about his health, and he said he has this huge home gym, but he has this lazy boy recliner right in the middle of it. So he's like, I'll do this exercise, this one, and then I go nap for about an hour and a half, and then I wake up and I'll do the treadmill for another. Like he made them put a lazy boy in the middle of his gym just so we could take naps mid round, whenever, or mid workout. The other thing on Daily, I don't know if you saw, this was making the rounds on social this week, but he was on Tucker Carlson's podcast. I'm not a subscriber.
Never heard of him.
But Daly, there are a lot of clips going around because Daly was on there. And John Daly told this story about beating Tiger in the 90s. And it was this wandering story and how Tiger was working out and going to do a bunch of stuff while Daly was sitting in this clubhouse for 4 or 5 hours just drinking. But basically he set up the story. It was like 1998, blah, blah, blah. And then he starts on the story. He's like, so then I went over and we went to this ballroom. There was an event and there was a guitar. So people don't know you can tune your guitar through the apps on your phone. So and I'm like, what fucking phone did John Daly have in 1997 that had a
It had a
guitar
tuner
tuner
app.
in it? So I think he's hugely full of shit. Obviously, he's not a Mr. Health, right?
Right.
So I believe a lot of that stuff, but I think the piece I don't believe as much is that he didn't really put a lot of time in, because I think that's almost impossible.
Also, this is like one of the reasons that I want to do this podcast with you. And it's so much of golf and social media content is like in this world of like, oh, like that's what like the, golf social media like plays to, like this guy, he's hammered, all he drinks and he plays golf. Like that's the whole like culture. And so like those stories are going to like take off and do better on Zyre Golf than like the guy who wants to like run and work out. So
Totally.
yeah.
And I think those definitely resonate more with the weekend golfer than people who are like thinking about their goals for 2014 on the golf course, right? So some content's for certain people, some's for
Right.
other. But
Do you have an inner OB for me?
I had,
or do you want to get to make the case?
well, I got a quick inner OB, but I already know your answer on it, but I just I want to get your background on this. I think this is like 10 years old or even more, but one of these clips popped up of when Bubba Watson was trying to get that the hover golf cart going. Have you ever seen this?
Yes.
So my question to you is: I know how you feel about walking versus karting, but if you have to get in a vehicle, are you in or out on anything but a cart to get you around the course? There's a lot of different things at different courses, and
man.
have you ever been on anything other than a cart? When you had to actually take a cart.
I haven't, but I've seen some. There's a bunch of guys at the course that I play with. They have the push cart that's remote controlled, or you wear something on you that kind of goes with you wherever you are. And there's a guy who lives near the course, and I see him like driving it across the street, like walking home after. Um, I've seen I've seen a friend of mine, friend of the pod. He lives down in Texas, so we used to work together at a golf course back in the day. He has like a little, it almost looks like a dirt bike, like a motorcycle type of thing. You put your clubs on it and you ride that around. I don't know if he rented that or use it.
Really?
And then I've seen like a scooter type of thing. I've seen one guy who was at Country Club of Vermont. I saw a guy like on a scooter
Like a
that almost
longboard
looked
type thing?
kinda, yeah,
Yeah, I've
yeah,
seen those before. I've never done it, but they just
yeah.
look so fucking goofy.
It looks goofy. Look, like I enjoy skateboarding. It's fun. Like, would it
What,
if you sep
currently?
yeah, yeah, like I have like a longboard here and I just ride it around. Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, well, you can't just
Separate
say I enjoy skateboarding and then we're gonna
separate
move on from it. But go
separate
ahead.
pod. Separate pod.
Okay.
But I could see how that activity would be fun separately, like on this beautiful area riding this thing around, but like you could not pay me to get out of my car, put my clubs on, set that thing up, pull up to the first D and be like, are you guys the 120 group? Oh yeah. Hey, I'm Dave. Nice to meet you. And like, then I can't even I won't even wear a bucket hat and I need to, cause I'm a bald man. I can't even wear a bucket hat because I'm worried what people are going to say
Yeah,
about me.
yeah.
If I showed up on that thing with the fucking scooter, it's over.
Or the Segway that has like the basket in the front.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
like oh my god, those are insane. Um, yeah, I've never been in anything other than a cart. I think, or I mean, I've used a push cart before. Some clubs have them, and if I don't know, I'm not proud of it, but I don't mind people taking those, and I don't mind really people doing whatever the hell they want. But
Yeah.
when you see those surfboard things or the longboard, like we're saying, the Segway things, it's come on. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm
But
definitely.
we'll
I'm
welcome.
definitely never going to be in a hovercraft on a golf course. I can almost guarantee that.
All right, we'll fast forward to 30 years from now when we see this clip. But we'll take your emails, longgamepod@gmail.com. Do you believe in alternative? Are you in support of alternative vehicles for the golf course?
Yeah. Or what's like the craziest thing you've ever ridden in on a course legally?
On a course legally,
Yeah.
caveat.
Yeah. Not one of these, look who someone's wife showed up at the golf course in a sedan, trying to find him on the course. No, not one of those. We're not talking
It's
about that.
not also not true.
Yeah,
Never
of
happens
course.
that way. All right, should we wrap or you got anything else?
Well, I do have another make the case, but I already kind of gave one out. So
Make the case 21 holes.
yeah. I'll just put this one in a bow quickly, and it's something you and I have talked about a lot. And
Wait,
we
this is
know
why
that
you need to roll. This is why you need to roll the game. This is why you need to roll the ball back case because you need more land on the course so you can have your 21 holes. That's all I'll say about that.
Okay, we'll talk about it. There's something to me going back to those. Something about it to me where if you separate the courses, there's less of an issue. But if you're like playing the same course that has an extra holes, I feel like someone's gonna be like, "That's illegal handicap wise." I don't know.
We'll keep riffing on it.
We get a lot of stuff where we might have to cut this whole section so we can actually develop this idea, but we'll see. So my other make the case, and again, this is quick. We've talked about it before. But I think it's timely right now because we know the PGA Tour and Live, and there's a lot of speculation about if that deal is going to get done. We won't really talk again until we'll know the answer to that, or unless they extend the deadline. But if we're about to remake the game of golf and we're in negotiations, that's real, and we're trying to find new revenue streams. Let's formalize the Greller Cam, which we've talked about. I feel like almost every week, but we need to have a feed $3.99 a month where we can tune in, where it's just, I'm sure every caddy and golfer aren't going to agree on if they want to opt into this, but the ones that do, I think, give the money to the caddy, $3.99 a month, whatever. I want to be able, just like on my TV, to go just like the SAP button one that's just the caddy one, and I want to hear what they're talking about. I don't want to hear the announcer talking over the conversation. I want to hear just what they're talking about, club selection, XYZ. So can we please build that into the next contract that we're doing, please?
We could, and you should up the price. I would pay $49 a month for that.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And I do like the idea let people opt into it because you don't ever want to force people into that kind of stuff. No one wants to be forced. Like these guys got to be comfortable in the course,
No,
right?
but you don't.
But
You don't
this is
think
a guy that's struggling to make money and his
you don't think
caddy.
you could get like five? You don't think you get like five guys though? Like look at
Totally.
I look at like golf Twitter as a good proxy for that. Like there's guys like this random guy Michael Kim, right? He's like become like a popular golf account because he just shares like he's a kind of like a fringe PGA Tour player, but he shares like so openly about stuff he's doing and learning or whatever. You don't think a guy like that would do that? And like, imagine the setup is like, you kind of have like it's almost like NFL Red Zone, where you have a guy who's kind of at the desk hosting, but then you go to each group. There doesn't have to be a lot of talk over time. This is the golf sicko content that I want. And that's the Greller Cam. There could be 3 to 4 groups a week. I would strictly watch that feed.
Yeah.
Like, give me it. You know, in addition to featured groups, you have like mic'd up groups or whatever.
This is like such a easy thing that Liv could just pick off too. Like, if this deal doesn't go through, like if they're trying to innovate, like that's something they could just start continuing to eat the tour's lunch on something like that. So free
Totally
idea
agree.
for Mr. Norman if he's not on a motorcycle trip right now.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so we'll be back. We'll be back with the Long Game Pod. We're going to start the new year off hot. The Century Tournament of Champions is coming up. Case, you and I are going to enjoy our holidays. You're going to get a lesson. I can't wait to hear about that. And we'll be back in the first week of January for the Century. As always, thanks for listening to this episode of the Long Game Pod. Send us an email. We love getting those listener emails, longgamepod@gmail.com. Go and follow us on all the socials. Casey's really just growing the account like crazy with all the clips that he's been making. So go and check out the pod. We'll see you back here for the first week of January for the Century.
And happy holidays. And Roy, come on the pod.
He's talking the long game.
They played the long game.
The long game gotta play the long game.
Their experience and they played the long game.